Hey everybody, what is going on? So in this section, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about matching and mirroring. And you want to think of this section as an extension to building rapport because these two lessons really do integrate with each other. Now, the thing I'm going to start off with is that people are wired to feel more comfortable around people who are just like them. And if you think about your life, just think about anyone that you've met. Think about who their friends are. With this individual, who are their friends? And a lot of times they're very similar to the people that they like to hang around. And it's just the truth where people like other people who are just like them. So if you're into fashion and shopping, you're probably going to have friends who are into those things as well. Or if you're into video games, then you're probably going to have a lot of friends who are also into video games. So it's just a very natural thing for people to feel like they want to be part of a community. Now, we're going to use this concept to help us become better sellers because when we're talking to people, we don't always have the luxury of them being similar to us. However, there are techniques and strategies that you can use to create this feeling of making other people feel comfortable and making them think subconsciously in their heads, wow, this person is just like me, whether or not that's actually true. So let's give you an example of how this works, right? So let's say you got all these people in this boardroom and they're in a meeting trying to do some kind of business deal and they're waiting on one more person to come into the meeting so that they can talk about the specifics of the deal, right? So let's say this person is, she's a young girl and she just finished yoga class and she's like, okay, well, time to go to that business meeting that I need to go to. And she's like, oh, I don't have time to change and blah, blah, blah. So she goes into the meeting wearing, like this sporty outfit over here. And everyone kind of looks at her and they'll think like, why is she wearing that? Like, it looks like she just got out of the gym when everyone else is wearing suits. So in this scenario, even though this girl may have the right intent, maybe she's a really good business person, but if she came into the room wearing something very different from everybody else, subconsciously in their heads, everyone's going to think, this person is not like me, and whatever they're trying to do, it's going to be very distracting and it's just not going to help with closing the deal. So in that case, you want to really think about how you can make the other person feel like you are just like them. Now, it doesn't mean you're not being unique. It doesn't mean you're not being yourself. It's just making people feel comfortable, and that's really the core of what this strategy is all about. Now, before you can start selling, you got to get people to like, trust, and emotionally connect with you. And obviously, you should know this by now. And one of the most effective ways to do it is this technique called mirroring. Now, here is essentially how to mirror somebody, right? And what you're doing is you are mimicking a person's body language and the tonality and the words that they're actually saying. So meaning if they sit a certain way, meaning they lean back, they're more relaxed, then you will probably want to lean back and relax as well. Because if you're up straight and really rigid, they're not going to feel comfortable. Now, if somebody talks really fast, then you want to pick up your speed and you want to match how fast they're talking. Or if they're talking more slow, you want to talk more relaxed and slow as well. And even when it comes to the words, if people like to use the word challenge or extraordinary, then you can use the words like challenge and extraordinary, and subconsciously people are going to think that you're just like them. And really, you're just mimicking the elements of communication, which are your body language, tonality, and the words. And really what you're doing is you're subconsciously making the other person feel, do I like this person? Do I trust this person? Do I feel comfortable? And is this person just like me? And once you check all these boxes, selling is going to be so much more easier and fluid because they trust you because you're just like them, right? So let's go ahead and give you an example of this. So let's say I'm over here, I'm a salesperson on the left, and we got John over here and he's on the right. So the first thing that happens usually when you meet someone for the first time, and if you're a salesperson trying to sell them, is that you shake their hand. You say, hey, how's it going, John? And they say, I'm doing good. Thanks, Patrick. So you got to pay attention to the first step here, and that is, how are you shaking this person's hand? Now, you may have thought about this already, or maybe you never thought about this at all, but let's say if your handshake comes off really strong, the other person might think, wow, why is he trying to squeeze my hand? Is he trying to overpower me? Like, what does this mean? Or if you're shaking someone's hand and it's too soft and too limp, someone might think like, wow, this guy must be really weak and not confident in himself, and that's not going to be a good first impression. So when you shake someone's hand, the trick is actually just to match whatever pressure they have. So if they shake hard, you shake hard. They shake medium, you do medium. If they shake a little more limpier, then you shake a little bit more limpier, right? And again, it's not being fake. It's just getting the other person to like and trust you. So moving further in the example, let's say John says, would you like a cup of coffee? and you're going to ask, are you having one? And if John wants coffee, then you can get a drink too. And if he doesn't want coffee, then you're not going to get a drink, right? So an example of mirroring. Here's the thing. Once you build rapport, the game of sales really starts, because once you get the person to like you, then you can use all the strategies and techniques that we're going to teach you. But before that, you got to get the other person to like you, and mirroring is one of the best ways. Now, with that said, when it comes to a sales meeting, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have to copy every single movement that they do tick for tack. Because let's say if they cross your leg, you don't have to cross your legs immediately. Or if they sit up straight or use a certain hand gesture, you don't have to copy them right away. You can just take your time and relax with it. So if somebody crosses their legs, you can talk as you normally would, and then when you change a point, you can sit back, cross your legs, and then speak, right? So you don't have to do everything right when they do it. You just have to do it every now and then, and subconsciously they're going to feel more comfortable. So again, it doesn't have to be so rigid and you're like copying them like you're literally a mirror, but you just kind of pick up on the cues that they're doing and then also mimic them later on, or a couple seconds later or a minute later, whatever it is that makes you feel most comfortable. And also keep in mind what's going to make them feel comfortable. And also, you do not have to copy everything someone does, because you got to do it, like I was saying, you got to do it in your own subtle way, in your own style. Sales is not about copying another person. It's just about making other people feel comfortable. And it just so happens that people are wired in a way to be more comfortable around people who are just like them. And this is one simple way to do it. And you might be thinking, well, if I'm copying somebody, won't they notice? Won't they think that's kind of weird? And I've done this, I don't know how many, maybe thousands of times by now. And the reality is that people never notice that you are mirroring them, especially if you're doing it in your own style, in a subtle way. They'll never ask, they'll never say anything. They'll just feel like they like you a little bit more. And throughout the entire sales cycle, know that you are always building rapport. This rapport is never going to stop. And you're also always going to use like rapport and mirroring all these strategies throughout the sales cycle. Meaning if you're at the end of the sales cycle and it's been a couple months or whatever it is, you're still building rapport. You're still using tonality, body language, and all the things that we talked about. However, just because you do a great job in the beginning doesn't mean you can slack off in the middle or the end. You're always building rapport, and you're always building a human connection with another human being to get them to consistently trust you throughout the entire sales cycle. And trust me, guys, I have used these techniques all around the world when it comes to mirroring, using body language, tonality, and using my words and choosing them more carefully. And in countries that don't speak English or countries that do speak English, these strategies do work. Literally every culture that I've experienced all around the world. So if you're watching this and maybe you live in the US or maybe you're somewhere around the world, know that these techniques do apply. They do work. And the reason is because human beings are all pretty much wired the same way. So again, remember, you're always building rapport, and one of the best ways to do it is matching and mirroring.